Hare Krishna, dear devotees, welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books. Welcome. We hope that all of you are safe and well and happy in all respects. From right here in the live studios in Hythe, southeast England, next to the English Channel in Kent. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Mahima Stotram by Śrīla Sanatana Goswami is a beautiful 5-verse stotra glorifying the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, especially the Vrindavan pastimes of Krishna, which we are reading now in the Krishna book. And it goes like this. Sarva Shastra Dipiyusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnaja Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths. You are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Śrīmad-Bhāgavata Prabho Kalidvandoditaditya Shri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Shri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshakshadayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Shri Krishna himself. Madeka Bando Mad Sangin Mad Guru Man Mahadana Man Nistadaka Mad Bhagya Mad Ananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu Saduta Dayin Adini Chotatakada Hanamun Chagada Chenmam Premna Rit Kantayokspuda. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we've reached chapter 15 of Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The killing of Dhenukasura. In this way, Sri Krishna, along with his elder brother Balarama, passed the childhood age known as Komara and stepped into the age of Poganda from the 6th year up to the 10th. At that time, all the cowherd men conferred and agreed to give those boys who had passed their 5th year charge of the cows in the pasturing ground. Given charge of the cows, Krishna and Balarama traversed Vrindavan, purifying the land with their lotus footprints. Accompanied by the cowherd boys and Balarama, Krishna brought forward the cows and played on his flute as he entered the forest of Vrindavan, which was full of flowers, vegetation, and pasturing grass. The Vrindavan forest was as sanctified as the clear mind of a devotee, and was full of bees, flowers, and fruits. There were chirping birds and clear water lakes, with waters that could relieve one of all fatigue. Sweet-smelling breezes blew always, refreshing the mind and body. Krishna, with his friends and Balaram, entered the forest and, seeing the favorable situation, desired to enjoy the atmosphere to the fullest extent. Krishna saw all the trees overloaded with fruits and fresh twigs bending down to touch the ground, as if welcoming him by touching his lotus feet. He was very much pleased by the behavior of the trees, fruits, and flowers, and he began to smile, realizing their desires. Krishna then spoke to his elder brother Balarama as follows: "My dear brother, you are superior to all of us, and your lotus feet are worshipped by the demigods. Just see how these trees, full with fruits and flowers, have bent down to worship your lotus feet. It appears that they are trying to get out of the darkness that has obliged them to accept the form of trees. Actually, the trees born in the land of Vrindavan are not ordinary living entities. Having held the impersonal point of view in their past lives, they have been put into this stationary condition of life, but now they have the opportunity of seeing you in Vrindavan, and they are praying for further advancement in spiritual life through your personal association. Generally, living entities in the mode of darkness obtain the bodies of trees. The impersonalist philosophers are in that darkness, but they eradicate it by taking full advantage of your presence. I think the drones that are buzzing all around you must have been your devotees in their past lives. They cannot leave your company because no one can be a better, more affectionate master than you. You are the supreme and original personality of Godhead, and the drones are just trying to spread your glories by chanting at every moment. I think some of them must be great sages, devotees of your lordship, and they are disguising themselves in the form of drones because they are unable to give up your company even for a moment. My dear brother, you are the supreme worshipable Godhead. Just see how the peacocks are dancing before you in great ecstasy. The deer, whose behavior is just like that of the gopis, are welcoming you with the same affection. And the cuckoos, who are residing in this forest, are welcoming you with their joyful, sweet cries, because they consider that your appearance in their home is so auspicious. Even though they are trees and animals, these residents of Vrindavan are glorifying you. They are prepared to welcome you to the best of their ability, as is the practice of great souls in receiving another great soul at home. As for the land, it is so pious and fortunate because the footprints of your lotus feet are marking its body. It is quite natural for these Vrindavan inhabitants to thus receive a great personality like you. The herbs, creepers, and plants are also so fortunate to touch your lotus feet. And by your touching the twigs with your fingernails, these small plants are also made glorious. As for the hills and the rivers, they too are now glorious because you are glancing at them. Above all, the damsels of Braja, the gopis, are the most glorious because you embrace them with your strong arms, being attracted by their beauty. In this way, Lord Krishna and Balarama began to enjoy the residents of Vrindavan to their full satisfaction as they herded the calves and cows on the bank of the Yamuna. In some places, Krishna and Balarama were accompanied by their friends. The boys were singing, imitating the humming sound of the drones, and accompanying Krishna and Balarama, who were garlanded with forest flowers. While walking, the boys sometimes imitated the quacking sound of the swans in the lakes, or when they saw the peacocks dancing, they imitated them before Krishna. Krishna also moved his neck, imitating the dancing and making his friends laugh. The cows taken care of by Krishna had different names, and Krishna would call them with love. After hearing Krishna calling, the cows would immediately respond by mooing, and the boys would enjoy this exchange to their heart's content. They would all imitate the sound vibrations made by the different kinds of birds, especially the chakoras, peacocks, cuckoos, and bhardwajas. Sometimes when they would see the weaker animals fleeing out of fear of the sounds of tigers and lions, the boys, along with Krishna and Balarama, would imitate the animals and run away from them. When they felt some fatigue, they would sit down, and Balarama would immediately come and begin massaging the legs of Balarama. And sometimes Krishna would take a palm fan and fan the body of Balarama, causing a pleasing breeze to relieve him from his fatigue. Other boys would sometimes dance or sing while Balarama took rest, and sometimes they would wrestle amongst themselves or jump. When the boys were thus engaged, Krishna would immediately join them, and catching their hands, he would enjoy their company and laugh and praise their activities. When Krishna would feel tired and fatigued, he would sometimes take shelter of the root of a big tree or the lap of a cowherd boy and lie down. When he would lie down with a boy or a root as his pillow, some of the boys would come and massage his legs, and some would fan his body with a fan made from leaves. Some of the more talented boys would sing in very sweet voices to please him. Thus, very soon, his fatigue would go away. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, whose legs are tended by the goddess of fortune, shared himself with the cowherd boys as one of them, expanding his internal potency to appear exactly like a village boy. But despite his appearing just like a village boy, there were occasions when he proved himself to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sometimes men pose themselves as the Supreme Personality of Godhead and cheat innocent people. But they can only cheat. They cannot exhibit the potency of God. While Krishna was thus engaged in his transcendental pastimes, exhibiting his internal potency in the company of the supermost fortunate cowherd boys, there occurred another chance for him to exhibit the superhuman powers of Godhead. His most intimate friends, Sridhama, Subal, and Stoka Krishna, addressed Krishna and Balarama with great love and affection thus: "Dear Balarama, you are very powerful. Your arms are very strong. Dear Krishna, you are very expert in killing all kinds of disturbing demons. Will you kindly note that just near this place there is a big forest of the name Talavan? This forest is full of palm trees, and all the trees are filled with fruits. Some have fallen down, and some are very ripe, even in the trees. It is a very nice place, but because of a great demon, Dhenukasura, it is very difficult to go there. No one can reach the trees to collect the fruits. Dear Krishna and Balarama, this demon is present there in the form of an ass, and he is surrounded by similar demon friends who have assumed the same shape. All of them are very strong, so it is very difficult to approach this place. Dear brothers, you are the only persons who can kill such demons. Other than you, no one can go there for fear of being killed. Not even animals go there, and no birds are living there. They have all left. One can only appreciate the sweet aroma that is coming from that place. It appears that up until now, no one has tasted the sweet fruits there, either on the tree or on the ground. Dear Krishna, to tell you frankly, we are very attracted by this sweet aroma. Dear Balarama, if you like, let us all go there and enjoy these fruits. The aroma of the fruits is now spread everywhere. Don't you smell it from here? When Balarama and Krishna were thus petitioned by their intimate friends, they were inclined to please them, and with smiling faces, they proceeded toward the forest, surrounded by all their friends. Immediately upon entering the Talavan, Balarama began to yank the trees with his arms, exhibiting the strength of an elephant. Because of this jerking, all the ripe fruits fell down on the ground. Upon hearing the sound of the falling fruits, the demon, Dhenukasura, who was living there in the form of an ass, approached with great force, shaking the whole field so that all the trees moved as if there were an earthquake. Excuse me. The demon appeared before Balarama and kicked his chest with his hind legs. At first Balarama did not say anything, but with great anger the demon kicked him again, more vehemently. This time Balarama immediately caught hold of the legs of the ass with one hand and, wheeling him around, threw him into the treetops. While he was being wheeled around by Balarama, the demon lost his life. Balarama threw the demon into the biggest palm tree about, and the demon's body was so heavy that the palm tree fell upon other trees, and several fell down. It appeared as if a great hurricane was passing through the forest, and all the trees were falling down one after another. This exhibition of extraordinary strength is not astonishing, because Balarama is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, known as Ananta Sheshanaga, who is holding up all the planets on the hoods of his millions of heads. He maintains the whole cosmic manifestation, exactly as horizontal and vertical threads hold the weaving of a cloth. After the demon had been thrown into the trees, all the friends and associates of Dhenukasura immediately assembled and attacked Balarama and Krishna with great force. They were determined to retaliate and avenge the death of their friend. But Krishna and Balarama caught each of the asses by the hind legs and exactly in the same way wheeled them around. Thus they killed all of them and threw them into the palm trees. Because of the dead bodies of the asses, there was a panoramic scene. It appeared as if clouds of various colors were assembled in the trees. Hearing of this great incident, the demigods from the higher planets showered flowers on Krishna and Balarama, and beat their drums and offered devotional prayers. A few days after the killing of Dhenukasura, people began to come into the Talavan forest to collect the fruits, and animals began to return without fear to feed on the nice grasses growing there. Just by chanting or hearing these transcendental activities and pastimes of the brothers Krishna and Balarama, one can amass pious activities. When Krishna and Balarama entered the village of Vrindavan along with their friends, they played their flutes, and the boys praised their uncommon activities in the forest. Their faces were decorated with tilak and smeared with the dust raised by the cows, and Krishna's head was decorated with a peacock feather. Both he and Balarama played their flutes, and the young gopis were joyous to see Krishna returning home. All the gopis in Vrindavan remained very morose on account of Krishna's absence. All day they were thinking of Krishna in the forest, or of him herding cows in the pasture. When they saw Krishna returning, all their anxieties were immediately relieved, and they began to look at his face, the way drones hover over the honey of a lotus flower. When Krishna entered the village, the young gopis smiled and laughed. Krishna, while playing the flute, enjoyed the beautiful smiling faces of the gopis. When Krishna and Balarama were immediately relieved, Krishna and Balarama were immediately received by their affectionate mothers, Yashoda and Rohini, who, according to the time's demands, began to fulfill the desires of their affectionate sons. Simultaneously, the mothers rendered service that bestowed benediction upon their transcendental sons. They took care of their children by bathing them and dressing them very nicely. Krishna was dressed in yellowish garments, and Balarama was dressed in bluish garments, and they were given all sorts of ornaments and flower garlands, being relieved of the fatigue of their day's work in the pasturing ground. Being relieved of the fatigue of their day's work in the pasturing ground, they looked refreshed and very beautiful. They were given palatable dishes by their mothers, and they pleasantly ate everything. After eating, they were seated nicely on clean bedding, and the mothers began to sing various songs of their activities. As soon as they lay down on the bedding, they very quickly fell fast asleep. In this way, Krishna and Balarama used to enjoy Vrindavan life as cowherd boys. Sometimes Krishna used to go with his boy friends in Balarama, and sometimes he used to go alone with his friends to the bank of the Yamuna and tend the cows. Gradually, the summer season arrived. And one day, while in the field, the boys and calves became very thirsty and began to drink the water of the Yamuna. The river, however, had been made poisonous by the venom of the great serpent known as Kāliya. Because the water was so poisonous, the boys and cows became visibly affected immediately after drinking. They suddenly fell down on the ground, apparently dead. Then Krishna, who is the life of all that lives, simply cast his merciful glance over them, and all the boys and calves regained consciousness and began to look at one another with great astonishment. They could understand that by drinking the water of the Yamuna, they had died, and that the merciful glance of Krishna had restored their lives. Thus, they appreciated the mystic power of Krishna, who is known as Yogeshwar, the master of all mystic yogis. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 15th chapter of Krishna, the killing of Dhenukasura. Jai. Shri Krishna ki jai. Kalavan forest ki jai. Shri Balarama ki jai. The killing of Dhenukasura ki jai. All right. Moving right along to text 16. chapter 16. Subduing Kāliya. When he understood that the water of the Yamuna was being polluted by the black serpent Kāliya, Krishna took action against him and made him leave the Yamuna and go elsewhere, and thus the water became purified. When this story was being narrated by Shukadeva Goswami, Parikshit Maharaj became eager to hear more about Krishna's childhood pastimes. He inquired from Shukadeva Goswami how Krishna chastised Kāliya, who had been living in the water for many years. Actually, Maharaj Parikshit was becoming more and more enthusiastic to hear the transcendental pastimes of Krishna, and his inquiry was made with great interest. Shukadeva Goswami narrated the story as follows. Within the river Yamuna, there was a great lake, and in that lake the black serpent Kāliya used to live. Because of his poison, the whole area was so contaminated that it emanated a poisonous vapor 24 hours a day. If a bird happened to even pass over the spot, it would immediately die and fall down into the water. Due to the poisonous effects of the Yamuna's vapors, the trees and grass near the bank of the Yamuna had all dried up. Lord Krishna saw the effect of the great serpent's poison. The whole river that ran before Vrindavan was now deadly. Krishna, who advented himself just to kill all undesirable elements in the world, immediately climbed up into a big Kadamba tree on the bank of the Yamuna. The Kadamba is a tree bearing round yellow flowers that is generally seen only in the Vrindavan area. After climbing to the top of the tree, he tightened his belt cloth, and, slapping his arms just like a wrestler, jumped into the midst of the poisonous lake. The Kadamba tree from which Krishna jumped was the only tree there which was not dead. Some commentators say that due to being touched by the lotus feet of Krishna, the tree immediately became alive. In some other Puranas it is stated that Garuda, the eternal carrier of Vishnu, knew that Krishna would take this action in the future, and so he put some nectar on this tree to preserve it. When Lord Krishna jumped into the water, the river overflooded its banks to a distance of 100 yards, as if something very large had fallen into it. This exhibition of Krishna's strength is not at all uncommon, because he is the reservoir of all strength. When Krishna was swimming around, just like a great strong elephant, he made a tumultuous sound, which the great black serpent Kāliya could hear. The tumult was intolerable for him, and he could understand that this was an attempt to attack his home. Therefore he immediately came before Krishna. Kāliya saw that Krishna was indeed worth seeing, because his body was so beautiful and delicate. Its color resembled that of a cloud, and his feet resembled lotus flowers. He was decorated with shrivats, jewels and yellow garments. He was smiling with a beautiful face and playing in the river Yamuna with great strength. But in spite of Krishna's beautiful features, Kāliya felt great anger within his heart, and thus he grabbed Krishna with his mighty coils. Seeing the incredible way in which Krishna was enveloped in the coils of the serpent, the affectionate cowherd boys and other inhabitants of Vrindavan immediately became stunned out of fear. They had dedicated everything to Krishna. Their lives, property, affection, activities, everything was for Krishna. And when they saw him in that condition, they became overwhelmed with fear and fell down on the ground. all the cows, bulls, and small calves became overwhelmed with grief, and they began to look at him with great anxiety. Out of fear, they could only cry in agony and stand erect on the bank, unable to help their beloved Krishna. While this scene was taking place on the bank of the Yamuna, there were ill omens manifest. The earth trembled, meteors fell from the sky, and the left side of men's bodies shivered. All these are indications of great immediate danger. Observing the inauspicious signs, the cowherd men, including Maharaj Nanda, became very anxious out of fear. At the same time, they were informed that Krishna had gone to the pasturing ground without his elder brother, Balarama. As soon as Nanda and Yashoda and the cowherd men heard this news, they became even more anxious. Out of their great affection for Krishna and being unaware of the extent of his potencies, they became overwhelmed with grief and anxiety because they had nothing dearer than Krishna and because they had dedicated their everything, life, property, affection, mind, and activities to Krishna. Because of their great attachment for Krishna, they thought, today Krishna is surely going to be vanquished. All the inhabitants of Vrindavan came out of the village to see Krishna. The assembly consisted of children, old men, women, animals, and all living entities. They knew that Krishna was their only means of sustenance. While this was happening, Balarama, who was the master of all knowledge, stood there simply smiling. He knew how powerful his younger brother was, and that there was no cause for anxiety when Krishna was fighting with an ordinary serpent of the material world. He did not, therefore, personally take any part in their sorrow. On the other hand, all the inhabitants of Vrindavan, being disturbed, began to search out Krishna by following the impression of his footprints on the ground, and thus they moved hastily toward the bank of the Yamuna. Finally, by following the footprints marked with flag, bow, and conch shells, the inhabitants of Vrindavan arrived at the riverbank and saw that all the cows and boys were weeping to behold Krishna enwrapped in the coils of the black serpent. Then they became still more overwhelmed with grief. While Balarama was smiling to see their lamentation, all the inhabitants of Vrindavan merged into the ocean of grief because they thought that Krishna was finished. Although the residents of Vrindavan did not know much about Krishna, their love for him was beyond comparison. As soon as they saw that Krishna was in the river Yamuna, enveloped by the serpent Kāliya, and that all the boys and cows were lamenting, they simply began to think of Krishna's friendship, his smiling face, his sweet words, and his dealings with them. Thinking of all these and seeing that their Krishna was now within the clutches of Kāliya, they at once felt that the three worlds had become vacant. Lord Chaitanya also said that he was seeing the three worlds as vacant for want of Krishna. This is the highest stage of Krishna consciousness. Almost all of the inhabitants of Vrindavan had the highest ecstatic love for Krishna. When Mother Yashoda arrived, she wanted to enter the river Yamuna, and being checked, she fainted. Her friends, who were equally aggrieved, were shedding tears like torrents of rain or waves of the river. But in order to bring Mother Yashoda to consciousness, they began to speak loudly about the transcendental pastimes of Krishna. Mother Yashoda remained still as if dead, because her consciousness was concentrated on the face of Krishna. Nanda and all the other cowherd men who had dedicated everything, including their lives, to Krishna, were ready to enter the waters of the Yamuna. But Lord Balarama checked them, because he was in perfect knowledge that there was no danger. For 2 hours, Krishna remained like an ordinary child, gripped in the coils of Kāliya. But when he saw that all the inhabitants of Gokula, including his mother and father, the gopis, the cows, the boys and the cows, were just on the point of death, and that they had no shelter for salvation from imminent death, Krishna immediately freed himself. He began to expand his body, and when the serpent tried to hold him, he felt a great strain. On account of the strain, his coils slackened, and he had no alternative but to let loose the personality of Godhead. Krishna, freed from his grasp, Krishna then became very, very angry, and his great hoods expanded. He exhaled poisonous fumes from his nostrils. His eyes blazed like fire, and flames issued from his mouth. The great serpent remained still for some time, looking at Krishna, licking his lips with bifurcated tongues. The serpent looked at Krishna with double hoods, and his eyesight was full of poison. Krishna immediately pounced upon him, just like Garuda swoops upon a snake. Thus attacked, Kāliya looked for an opportunity to bite him, but Krishna moved around. As Krishna and Kāliya moved in a circle, the serpent gradually became fatigued, and his strength seemed to diminish considerably. Krishna immediately pressed down the serpent's hoods and jumped up on them. The Lord's lotus feet became tinged with red from the rays of the jewels of the snake's hoods. Then he, who is the original artist of all fine arts, such as dancing, began to dance upon the hoods of the serpent. Although they were moving to and fro, upon seeing this, then he who is the original artist of all fine arts, such as dancing, began to dance upon the hoods of the serpent, although they were moving to and fro. Upon seeing this, the denizens of the upper planets showered flowers, beat drums, played different types of flutes, and sang various prayers and songs. In this way, all the denizens of heaven, such as the Gandharvas, Siddhas, and demigods, became very much pleased. While Krishna was dancing on his hoods, Kāliya tried to push him down with some of his other hoods. Kāliya had about 100 hoods, but Krishna took control of them. He began to dash Kāliya with his lotus feet, and this was more than the serpent could bear. Gradually, Kāliya was reduced to struggling for his very life. He vomited all kinds of refuse and exhaled fire. While throwing up poisonous material from within, Kāliya became reduced in his sinful situation. Out of great anger, he began to struggle for existence and tried to raise one of his hoods to kill the Lord. The Lord immediately captured that hood and subdued it by kicking it and dancing on it. It actually appeared as if the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, was being worshipped. The poisons emanating from the mouth of the serpent appeared to be like flower offerings. Kāliya then began to vomit blood instead of poison. He was completely fatigued. His whole body appeared to be broken by the kicks of the Lord. Within his mind, however, he finally began to understand that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. and he surrendered unto him. He realized that Krishna is the Supreme Lord, the master of everything. The wives of the serpent, known as the Nagapatnis, saw that their husband had been subdued by the Lord's kicking, and that he was almost at the point of death, due to bearing the heavy burden of the Lord, within whose abdomen the whole universe remains. Kāliya's wives prepared to worship the Lord, and in their haste their clothes, hair, and ornaments became disarrayed. They also surrendered unto the Supreme Lord and began to pray. They appeared before him, put forward their offspring, and anxiously offered respectful obeisances, falling down on the bank of the Yamuna. The Nagapatnis knew that Krishna is the shelter of all surrendered souls, and they desired to release their husband from the impending danger by pleasing the Lord with their prayers. The Nagapatnis began to offer their prayers as follows. O dear Lord, you are equal to everyone. For you, there is no distinction between your sons, friends, or enemies. Therefore, the punishment which you have so kindly offered to Kāliya is exactly befitting. O Lord, you have descended especially for the purpose of annihilating all kinds of disturbing elements within the world. And because you are the absolute truth, there is no difference between your mercy and your punishment. We think, therefore, that this apparent punishment of Kāliya is actually some benediction. We consider that your punishment is your great mercy upon us, because when you punish someone, it is to be understood that the reactions of his sinful activities are eradicated. It is already clear that this creature appearing in the body of a serpent must have been overburdened with all kinds of sin. Otherwise, how could he have the body of a serpent? Your dancing on his hoods has reduced all the sinful results of actions caused by his having this body of a serpent. It is therefore very auspicious that you have become angry and have punished him in this way. We are very much astonished to see how you have become so much pleased with this serpent, who evidently performed various religious activities in his past lives that pleased everyone. He must have undergone all kinds of penances and austerities, humbly honored others, and executed universal welfare activities for all living creatures. The Nagapatnis confirm that one cannot come in contact with Krishna without having executed pious activities in devotional service in his previous lives. As Lord Chaitanya advised in his Shikshastaka, one has to execute devotional service by humbly chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street, and not expecting honor for himself, but offering all kinds of honor to others. The Nagapatnis were astonished that although Krishna had the body of a serpent as the result of grievous sinful activities, at the same time he was in contact with the Lord to the extent that the Lord's lotus feet were touching his hoods, a blessing that must certainly have been the result of extraordinary pious activities. These two contradictory facts astonished them. Thus they continued to pray, O dear Lord, we are simply astonished to see that he is so fortunate as to have the dust of your lotus feet on his head. This is a fortune sought after by great saintly persons. Even the goddess of fortune underwent severe austerities just to have the blessing of the dust of your lotus feet. So how is it that Kāliya is so easily getting this dust on his head? We have heard from authoritative sources that those who are blessed with the dust of your lotus feet do not care even for the highest post within the universe, namely the post of Lord Brahma, or the kingship of the heavenly planets, or the sovereignty of this planet. Nor do such persons desire to rule the planets above the earth, such as Siddhaloka. Nor do they aspire for the mystic powers achieved by the yoga process. Nor do the pure devotees aspire for liberation by becoming one with you, our dear Lord. Although he is born in a species of life which is fostered by the most abominable mode of material nature, accompanied with the quality of anger, this king of the serpents has achieved something very, very rare. Living entities who are wandering within this universe in different species of life can very easily achieve the greatest benediction only by your mercy. It is confirmed in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that the living entities wandering within the universe in various species of life can get the seed of devotional service by the mercy of Krishna and the spiritual master, and thus their path of liberation can be cleared. The Nagapatnis continued, "We therefore offer our respectful obeisances unto you, our dear Lord, because you are the Supreme Person who are living as the Supersoul within every living entity. Although you are transcendental to the cosmic manifestation, everything is resting in you. You are the personified, indefatigable. You are the personified, indefatigable, eternal time. The entire time force is existing in you, and you are therefore the seer and the embodiment of total time in the shape of past, present, and future, month, day, hour, moment, everything. In other words, O Lord, you can see perfectly all the activities happening in every moment, in every hour, in every day, in every month, in every year, past, present, and future. You are yourself, the universal form, and yet you are different from this universe. You are simultaneously one with and different from the universe. We therefore offer our respectful obeisances unto you. You are yourself the whole universe, and yet you are the creator of the whole universe. You are the superintendent and maintainer of this whole universe, and you are its original cause. Although you are present within this universe by your three qualitative incarnations, Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshwara, you are transcendental to the material creation. Although you are the cause of the appearance of all kinds of living entities, their senses, their lives, their minds, their intelligence, you are to be realized by your internal energy. Let us therefore offer our respectful obeisances unto you, who are unlimited, finer than the finest, the center of all creation, and the knower of everything. Different varieties of philosophical speculators try to reach you. You are the ultimate goal of all philosophical efforts, and it is actually only you who are described by all philosophies and by different kinds of doctrines. Let us offer our respectful obeisances unto you, because you are the origin of all scripture and the source of knowledge. You are the root of all evidences, and you are the Supreme Person who can bestow upon us the supreme knowledge. You are the cause of all kinds of desires, and you are the cause of all kinds of satisfaction. You are the Vedas personified. Therefore, we offer you our respectful obeisances. Our dear Lord, you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, and you are also the Supreme Enjoyer. You have now appeared as the son of Vasudeva, who is a manifestation of the state of pure goodness. You are the predominating deities of mind and intelligence, Aniruddha and Pradyumna, and you are the Lord of all Vaishnavas. By your expansion as the Chaturvyuha, namely Vasudeva, Sankarsana, Aniruddha, and Pradyumna, you are the cause of the development of mind and intelligence. By your activities only, the living entities become covered by forgetfulness or discover their real identity. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, 15th chapter. The Lord is sitting as the Super Soul in everyone's heart, and due to His presence, the living entity either forgets himself or revives his original identity. We can partially understand that you are within our hearts as the witness of all our activities, but it is very difficult to appreciate your presence, although every one of us can do so to some extent. You are the supreme controller of both the material and spiritual energies. Therefore, you are the supreme leader, although you are different from this cosmic manifestation. You are the witness and creator and the very ingredient of this cosmic manifestation. We therefore offer our respectful obeisances unto you, our dear Lord. In the matter of creating this cosmic manifestation, personally, you have nothing to exert. By expanding your different kinds of energy, namely the mode of passion, the mode of goodness, and the mode of ignorance, you create, maintain, and annihilate this cosmic manifestation. As the controller of the entire time force, you simply glance over the material energy, thereby creating this universe and energizing the different modes of material nature, which act differently in different creatures. No one can estimate, therefore, how your activities are going on within this world. Our dear Lord, although you have expanded into the three principal deities of this universe, namely Lord Brahma, Lord Vishnu, and Lord Shiva, for creation, maintenance, and destruction, your appearance as Lord Vishnu is actually for the benediction of living entities, living creatures. Therefore, for those who are actually peaceful and who are aspiring after the supreme peace, worship of your peaceful appearance as Lord Vishnu is recommended. O Lord, we are submitting our prayers unto you. You can appreciate that this poor serpent is going to give up his life. You know that for us women, our husband is our life and everything. Therefore, we are praying unto you that you kindly excuse Kāliya, our husband, because if this serpent dies, then we shall be in great difficulty. Looking upon us only, please excuse this great offender. Our dear Lord, every living creature is your offspring, and you maintain everyone. This serpent is also your offspring, and you can excuse him once, although he has offended you, undoubtedly, without knowing your supremacy. We are praying that he may be excused this time. Our dear Lord, we are offering our loving service unto you, because we are all eternal servitors of your Lordship. You can order us to do whatever you please. Every living being can be relieved from all kinds of despair if he agrees to abide by your orders. After the Nagapatnis submitted their prayers, Lord Krishna released Kāliya from his punishment. Kāliya was already unconscious from being struck by the Lord. Upon regaining consciousness and being released from the punishment, Kāliya got back his life force and the working power of his senses. With folded hands, he humbly began to pray to the Supreme Lord, Krishna. My dear Lord, I have been born in such a species that by nature I am angry and envious, being in the darkest region of the mode of ignorance. Your Lordship knows well that it is very difficult to give up one's natural instincts, although by such instincts the living creature transmigrates from one body to another. It is also confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita that it is very difficult to get out of the clutches of material nature. But if anyone surrenders unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the modes of material nature can no longer act upon him. My dear Lord, Kāliya continued, you are the original creator of the modes of material nature by which the universe is created. You are the cause of the different kinds of mentality possessed by different creatures, by which they have obtained different varieties of bodies. My dear Lord, I am born as a serpent. Therefore, by natural instinct, I am very angry. How is it then possible to give up my acquired nature without your mercy? It is very difficult to get out of the clutches of your Maya. By your Maya, we remain enslaved. My dear Lord, kindly excuse me for my inevitable material tendencies. I surrender unto you. Now you can punish me or save me as you desire. After hearing this, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who was acting as a small human child, ordered the serpent thus: you must immediately leave this place and go to the ocean. Leave without delay. You can take with you all your offspring, wives, and everything that you possess. Don't pollute the waters of the Yamuna. Let it be drunk by my cows and cowherd boys without hindrance. The Lord then declared that the order given to the Kāliya snake be recited and heard by everyone, so that no one need fear Kāliya any longer. Anyone who hears the narration of the Kāliya serpent and his punishment will need fear no more the envious activities of snakes. The Lord also declared, if one takes a bath in the Kāliya lake, where my cowherd boyfriends and I have bathed, or if one fasts for a day and offers oblations to the forefathers from the water of this lake, he will be relieved from all kinds of sinful reactions. The Lord also assured Kāliya, you came here out of fear of Garuda, who wanted to eat you in the beautiful land by the ocean. Now, after seeing the marks where you have touched your head with my lotus feet, Garuda will not disturb you. The Lord was pleased with Kāliya and his wives. Immediately after hearing his order, the snake and his wives began to worship him with great offerings of nice garments, flowers, garlands, jewels, ornaments, sandalwood pulp, lotus flowers, and nice eatable fruits. In this way they pleased the master of Garuda, of whom they were very much afraid. Then, obeying the orders of Lord Krishna, all of them left the lake within the Yamuna. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 16th chapter of Krishna, Subduing Kāliya. Jai Shri Krishna, Jai. Kāliya's serpent, killing and bestowing mercy on his lotus heads. Ki Jai. Gaur Premanandi. Hari Hari Bo. Okay, this is an extremely ecstatic pastime. It's overwhelming. Hare Krishna. Okay, we'll stop here. And if there's any reflections or discussions or points of interest, please be our guest. Hare Krishna.
Rati Manjari said, Jai Guru Maharaj.
Jai Rati Manjari, Hare Krishna.
Raja Lakshmi said, Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept Mahabharata obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and all glories to your daily readings.
All glories, Hare Krishna, Raja Lakshmi, Hare Krishna.
Sudevi Dasi, Hare Krishna Maharaj, well-wisher of everyone and loyal servant of Srila Prabhupada. Another day in your association makes my life bearable. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Sudevi. Thank you very much.
Gopakanya Devi Dasi, Shri Maharaj Hare Krishna, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Jai Shri Krishna Katha.
Jai Haribo. May Krishna dance on our heads, purify our hearts.
Krishna Premavati Devidasi, Hare Krishna Maharaj and devotees, Dandavat Pranams Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Noel Craver, Hare Krishna dear Maharaj.
Jai Bhakti Noel.
Krishna Premavati Devidasi. I remember the song I used to sing for my daughter. Today in the forest of Talavan, Lord Krishna and Balaram killed the Dhenukasura by wheeling him around and around. From Bhaktarupa Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Bhaktarupa Haribo.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Jai Srila Prabhupada. Read these pastimes in the Bhagavatam today. Heard that according to the Acharyas, Krishna was producing wonderful musical sounds within the waters simply by splashing his hands and arms. Interesting that here Prabhupada mentioned that Kāliya found the tumult intolerable. Reminds me of certain members of the public finding Harinam unbearable and covering their ears.
Yeah, sure. Everyone responds to Krishna's pastimes according to their mentality. Those who are pure in heart, they become ecstatic. Those who are in ignorance and wanting to avoid the happiness that comes from being with Krishna, they become afraid, or, as Krishna says in the Gita, they flee here and there. Prabhupada told us, I just heard him say it just a couple of days ago, don't expect that very many people can take to Krishna consciousness. We shouldn't think that if a whole bunch of people aren't coming, therefore there's something wrong with what we're doing. No way. We're trying to re-spiritualize the human society. And the more the human society chases after the things of the world in order to try to become satisfied and make this world a permanent place, the more the atmosphere becomes polluted. We're hearing about how the Yamuna was polluted, but just look at the world now. You know, forest fires and hurricanes, earthquakes, melting polar caps, the air being so polluted in some places you can't even see the buildings. Some places they can't even go out and breathe. They have to wear gas masks just to breathe the air. This is what's happening to the world as a result of the sinful activities and the speculative habits of atheistic philosophers. Therefore, these pastimes are the most potent form of purification. Just as we heard at the very end of the pastime, anyone who hears the narration of a Kāliya serpent and his punishment will need fear no more the envious activities of snakes. And that includes snake-like men. Hare Krishna. So thank you for that lovely analogy. Thank you.
Anandamurti Devidasi.
Who?
Anandamurti Devidasi.
Oh, Anandamurti, Hare Krishna.
Jai Gurudev.
Osaka.
Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Śrīla Prabhupāda. I have one question. Why Lord Sri Krishna displayed to be caught by Kāliya's coil for about 2 hours? Is it because does he want to see how Yashoda Mata and friends love him?
He's playing. He's only 6 years old. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but still, he comes in his Naralila to act, to go through all the stages of life, to enjoy himself. He's coming here just to play and just to enjoy himself. That's what he's doing. And by doing that, it's true that he was, trying to increase the love of his devotees and his family. Definitely. But at the same time, he was playing. Like 5, 6-year-old boys, they play. They get into trouble, they run around, they do this, they do that. Krishna did all those things. Sport. He was sporting. Hare Krishna.
From Chakradhari Prabhu. Hare Krishna Maharaj, Nagapatnis confirmed Krishna's statement that he is the time personified. Every minute, hour, day, past, present, and future.
Hare Krishna Chakradhari, thank you very much for that wonderful comment. Hare Krishna, we miss you.
Bhaktarupa. Kāliya's prayers really resonated tonight. My dear Lord, I am born as a serpent, therefore, by natural instinct, I am very angry. How is it then possible to give up my acquired nature without your mercy? It is very difficult to get out of the clutches of your Maya. By your Maya we remain enslaved. My dear Lord, kindly excuse me for my inevitable material tendencies. I surrender unto you. Now you can punish me or save me as you desire.
Daivyesha gunamayi mama maya duratyaya. Maya is Krishna's energy, and it's very difficult to overcome. Impossible, actually. But mameva ye prapadyante, maya metam tarantite. By surrendering to Krishna, you very easily cross over the material nature. Therefore, when Maya is really on your case, she doesn't want you to surrender to Krishna, because that way you'll be able to get out of her influence. And that's her duty. That's her duty for Krishna. So there's only one way to overcome the material nature, and that's actually to surrender to Krishna. And that surrender is, how do you say, enshrined in the statement, the very end of the statement. You can save me, or you can kill me. It's up to you. I'm yours. Whatever you want to do with me. If you come to that stage of surrender, Krishna will protect you for sure, and deliver you from all material anxieties. Ma shucha, do not fear. And then at the end of the Gita purport of 1866, Krishna, Srila Prabhupada says this. I want to read it verbatim because I can tell you, but I like to hear, in case you didn't notice, I like to hear Prabhupada's words. It's so much fun. Prabhupada says, one may be perplexed as to how one can give up all kinds of religious forms and simply surrender unto Krishna, but such worry is useless. So Prabhupada told us, the only thing I'm asking you to give up is your suffering and worry. Your suffering and anxiety. Is that too much to ask? Hare Krishna.
From Rati Manjari.
Hare Krishna, Rati.
Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. Indeed, subduing Kāliya is a very interesting and intense pastime. I find it fascinating and somewhat confusing that the Nagapatnis who were married to a demoniac snake were able to offer such nice prayers to the Lord. They sound like devotees, but if they were, why would they be married and remain attached to Kāliya? Would you please comment on this if you want?
The wives of the Brahmanas were also great devotees of Krishna. By fate, they became married to these atheistic Brahmanas, these Marta Brahmanas, with no love for Krishna, but still, they had love for Krishna. Prahlad Maharaj is born the son of the biggest demon in the whole universe, and he had love for Krishna. So they were devotees of Krishna. It's all an arrangement of Krishna's energies, these pastimes. These are not ordinary pastimes. We shouldn't become confused just because there's something that seems to us to be illogical or inconsistent or contradictory. There's nothing contradictory in Krishna's pastimes. And the sooner we can come to understand that, at least theoretically, the more we can relish the pastimes and not turn them around in our minds with different doubts or different, confusions. They are what they are. Krishna has arranged it in that way that the Kāliya serpents wives could offer such wonderful prayers. They're some of the nicest prayers you find in the Bhagavatam. And that saved Kāliya, actually. So this is the mystery of Krishna consciousness, and we should want to jump in the deep end of the mysteries of Krishna's pastimes and finally get relief from our suffering condition. Hare Krishna.
Ananda Moti Devidasi Mataji said, Hare Krishna, thank you
Hare
so
Krishna,
much.
Nandamurti, Haribol.
Mati Manjari Mataji said, also I like to hear that while all the Vrajavasis were in anxiety, Lord Balaram was fully confident of Krishna's ability, and he was probably just enjoying the good fight. Bhakti is such a rich path filled with so many different emotions and relationships, all happenings at the same time. It's amazing. Every time I really hear such nice things, my resolve to pursue the path of devotional service increases.
Yes, as it should. And it's very simple. It's very simple. Why Balaram was smiling and the Brajbasis were practically dying. Because he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's an expansion of Krishna. He knows everything. So he knew what was going to happen. Therefore, he was just smiling because he knew everything was going to turn out okay. But the Brajbasis, because Krishna is their life and soul, they couldn't think like that. They couldn't feel like that. Even though they knew Krishna had killed so many demons already, they knew that he was not an ordinary person. But their love for him was so powerful that it covers over this opulences of Krishna, the power, and absolute qualities that Krishna has. Yes, these pastimes are bewildering at the same time, enlivening at the same time, replete with all the different kinds of emotions that you can feel. Hare Krishna.
Back to our Papa who said, "Thank you, Maharaj, this was wonderful tonight."
Thank you very much, Bhaktivedanta. Thank you, everyone, for these last two readings were long. It's not easy to sit in here, for such a long time like this. So I am deeply impressed with all of you for your taste that you are acquiring. And I must say that I also was overwhelmed. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, ki jai. Samaveta Bhaktivedanta ki jai. Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. We'll see you tomorrow night to hear what else is wonderful Krishna going to do. Hare Krishna.